Before the great flood, before kings and empires, there was a man who walked with God. His name was Enoch, and what he witnessed, what he recorded, would shake the foundations of heaven and earth alike. If you're here, it's because you're ready to uncover secrets that were hidden from mankind for millennia. So before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. What you're about to hear isn't just ancient text. It's prophecy, it's warning, and it's revelation. And you won't want to miss what comes next. This story isn't fiction. It's a truth buried in time. A story forbidden, forgotten, and now remembered. Let's walk into the fire together. In the silence of a world not yet consumed by sin, Enoch was chosen. Not for power, not for fame, but for his ability to listen. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a king. He was a man of purity in a world beginning to rot from the inside. And because of that, heaven opened its doors. Angels descended. Voices thundered. And God himself whispered truths that would tear the veil between the divine and the damned. This wasn't a vision. It was a mission. And Enoch carried it alone, with trembling hands and a heart ready to be broken. He was taken beyond the veil, past the stars, into the secret architecture of creation itself. And what he saw was not paradise. It was horror wrapped in glory. It was light burning with judgment. He walked among chambers not meant for human eyes, heard names that echoed like thunder through eternity, and with every step the weight of knowledge grew heavier on his soul. He was not a spectator. He was a witness. And now you are too. There were angels, beings of immeasurable power, who abandoned their stations, not out of mercy, not out of purpose, but out of desire. They looked upon humanity and lusted. They descended, they made pacts, they took women, and what they created was unnatural. Giants, beasts, creatures too massive, too ravenous for the earth to sustain. These were the Nephilim, born of heaven's rebellion and mankind's innocence. They devoured everything: crops, beasts, blood. They feasted on man. But it wasn't just their bodies that corrupted the world. These angels brought forbidden knowledge, secrets meant for the divine, arts of war, tools of vanity, powers of the stars and elements. They taught men how to kill more efficiently, how to seduce, how to poison, enchant, manipulate. And with every secret spilled, the world grew darker. The air thickened with sin. The soil bled with cries. And heaven could no longer remain silent. Enoch didn't just witness this decay. He felt it. The screams of the innocent haunted his visions. The ground itself seemed to cry out, as if the earth could no longer bear the weight of evil. So God acted. He summoned his archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, and he commanded justice. No more pleading, no more mercy. Judgment would rain down like fire. And Enoch? He was chosen to carry the decree, to face these fallen beings and speak the final word they would ever hear from heaven. He stood before them, these once glorious creatures now tainted by pride and lust, their beauty warped, their wings heavy with shame, and they begged for forgiveness, begged for a second chance. But the answer was already carved into the stars. No, the judgment had been passed. The Nephilim would fall, the angels would be bound, and the world would be washed clean in a flood of divine wrath. Enoch, trembling, wrote it all. For you, for now. And still, God showed mercy, not to the fallen, but to the faithful. He warned Noah. He commanded the building of the ark. He preserved the seed of righteousness. Because this wasn't just about destruction. It was about resetting the story. A reset that would echo through generations until today. Until you. Until this very moment where you choose, do you look away, or do you finally see? They thought they could rewrite the divine order. The angels, once radiant with holy purpose, turned their gaze toward flesh, toward lust, toward rebellion. Semjaza, their leader, hesitated. He feared the weight of sin, the wrath of the Almighty. But fear was not enough. They made a pact, a curse-bound oath upon Mount Hermon. 200 of them, united in defiance. They swore they would not turn back, no matter the consequence. And with that, the fall began. Not from heaven, but from within their very essence. The moment they touched the earth, something sacred died. They chose wives among the daughters of men, not out of love, but hunger. They taught these women enchantments, seductions, and forbidden arts. And from these unions came giants, titanic in size and appetite. The Nephilim. They were not simply offspring. They were abominations. Their presence desecrated the soil. Their shadows stretched long and devoured the light. These giants turned on men, on beasts, on each other. Blood soaked the earth. Silence fell in the heavens. And Enoch kept writing. But what truly shattered the balance was not the flesh, it was the knowledge. Metal was no longer innocent. It became blade. Stone became altar. Stars became maps for sorcery. The Watchers taught mankind how to manipulate nature, twist destiny, bend truth. What was once divine became profane. Vanity, war, deception. The very fabric of creation was under siege, and the ones meant to protect it had become its destroyers. Enoch watched as purity drowned in progress. And still, he wrote, then came the cry, not from man, but from the earth. The ground itself cried out, the trees, the oceans, the wind. Everything God had called good now wept under the weight of sin. The angels who had not fallen heard it. The archangels above took notice, and heaven responded. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, pillars of divine justice, were summoned, not to comfort, but to act. Their swords were not for show, they were for severance. Enoch was called again, not as a bystander, as a voice. God told him, deliver the sentence, stand before the Watchers, show them the scroll, speak the words. And so he did. He went to them, these powerful beings now trembling like leaves in a storm. He gave them no comfort, no compromise. You were never meant to dwell among flesh, he declared. You were never meant to reveal the secrets of the heavens. Their fate was sealed. Their children were to die. Their names erased. Azazel, the corrupter, was buried alive in the desert of Dudael, chained beneath sharp rocks, blinded in darkness until the day of eternal judgment. The others? Sentenced to 70 generations of imprisonment beneath the earth. The Nephilim would tear each other apart in battle. Not a single one would remain. Not a single cry would be heard from heaven on their behalf. And mankind would drown. But from one man, a new world would rise. Noah, righteous in a generation of monsters, chosen, guided, prepared. The flood would wash the world, but not the memory. That's why Enoch was commanded to write it all. For this moment, for you, for the heart still willing to see beyond the veil. Because judgment doesn't begin with wrath, it begins with truth. And truth once seen demands a response. There are places not meant to be seen by mortal eyes. Yet Enoch was taken there, not as a thief, but as a witness. He saw the prison of the fallen, dark, endless, burning with chains of fire and silence. Their once glorious wings now tattered, their voices once divine, now choked by regret. These were not legends. These were living sentences. Enoch walked among them, guided by angels, his soul trembling under the weight of eternal consequence. He looked upon what happens when divinity is desecrated, and still he kept writing. Beyond the prison was something even more terrifying. Justice unfiltered. Enoch saw the throne, a seat wrapped in flame, surrounded by rivers of fire that danced to the rhythm of divine will. On it sat the Most High, not as a distant deity, but as judge. Around him, thousands of angels sang not sweet songs, but declarations, proclamations of holiness, of righteousness, of wrath. Enoch bowed low, his breath stolen by awe. This was not a place for negotiation. It was a court where eternity was decided in silence. The Most High showed Enoch the fate of the Nephilim spirits. Though their bodies would be destroyed, their essence, their spirits, would remain, and not in peace. These spirits would wander the earth as malevolent forces, invisible, restless, full of rage. They would torment the living, whisper lies, breed chaos. These would be known as the evil spirits, ghosts of rebellion, shadows of a crime so old we forgot its origin. But Enoch remembered, and his ink burned with prophecy. Then came the visions of what could be. He was shown the end and the beginning, a world restored, a land where justice blooms like a tree, the righteous walking in light, unafraid, children playing in peace, mountains singing, oceans praising, a garden remade. This wasn't fantasy. It was the promise at the end of judgment. But only after the cleansing, only after the fire. God was not done. He was just getting started. Enoch also saw the books, scrolls upon scrolls, etched with every breath, every deed, every thought of mankind. Nothing hidden, nothing lost. The good recorded for reward, the wicked marked for ruin. He saw how even wisdom had once descended, searching for a home in men's hearts, only to be rejected. And so she returned to heaven, weeping. Enoch wept too, not from sorrow, but from understanding. We don't suffer because we're forgotten. We suffer because we forget. Then the Son of Man appeared, a figure of unimaginable glory, seated on a throne of judgment, his face radiant like the sun, his voice a tidal wave. All nations were gathered before him, kings, beggars, prophets, liars, no titles, no excuses, only truth. The books were opened, names called, destinies revealed. The wicked tried to hide, but there was no shadow to retreat to. The just stood in light, their joy uncontainable. And Enoch watched, heart burning, soul ready, because the Son of Man was not only judge, he was restorer. Where there was ash, he planted life. Where there were chains, he spoke freedom. Where there were wounds, he poured healing. He extended his hand and declared a new kingdom, one not built by man, but by heaven, one not bound by time, but by eternity. And in that moment, Enoch understood. This wasn't just prophecy, this was destiny, and it was coming. The story of Enoch isn't just an ancient account, it's a mirror, a call to wake up, to remember who we are and who we were meant to walk with. You've seen the fall, the judgment, and the promise of restoration. Now it's your turn to choose the light, to walk in truth, and to prepare your soul for what's coming. Subscribe to the channel, follow Jesus, and let his justice and mercy shape your path. I'm Oliver, and I carry these truths not as myths, but as a mission. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Stay awake, stay faithful, and until next time, may your spirit burn brighter than the darkness around you.